Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in Long Beach today, joined by Jeff Kellogg, Vice President of the Long Beach Community College District. I want to start by talking about funding for community colleges. As you know, the governor has been very keen on supporting not only K-12, but K-14. And K-14 obviously includes community colleges. And so as we're speaking today, the state budget's marching through the process, and K-14 is getting a really hefty chunk of change, up 58% from 2011. You were here in 2011. You remember those dark days. Give us a sense of how different a 58% bump is.
Well, and it's a positive budget. There's some negative things to it, but you don't want to be greedy.
Right.
The fact that there's a lot of things going on right now with the state legislature is working through it. The biggest question is with the Prop 98 funding, about percentages with that, about that being broken down with the K-12. K-12 is our natural ally, so we don't want to sit there and say, well, we want to take money from the K-12 system. But overall, the community college systems, in comparison to what you mentioned about during the times from 2008, where what we refer to as the Great Recession. I have no idea what was so great about the Great Recession, but they call it that, but we're doing much better.
I do want to really get a sense, if you can. I mean, I don't know if community colleges specifically got a 58% bump from 2011, but you're getting a lot more money. Well, what does that look like?
Well, it looks like a lot of times is one-time expenditures, and they're focusing on things like workforce development. So the governor has tried to focus money in areas that he feels there's a great need for. Now, he's also looked at other things he's not a big fan of, and that is extended debt, and that was where he was opposed to the statewide bond that would have funded community college projects, including Long Beach City College.
But it passed.
It did pass, and so, but then in his budget, he only funded a few projects, and they would be able to fund up to 19. Now, that's going through a rewrite in the state legislature right now, but the governor has been fairly prudent on it. But at the end of the day, the community college system, we have to be very careful. We're doing better, but at the same time, we're still not funded the levels that we need to be with all the different missions and requirements we're needed to do.
So let's talk about that, because you said that you didn't want to, I'll use a word that you didn't use, kind of cannibalize your friends at K-12. But the challenge becomes that the governor, since we've seen the economy turn around, has been so focused on K-14. I mean, to the exclusion of virtually anything else, that at some point, I have a feeling that other stakeholders are going to say, enough. Enough. We've restored K-14. You're good. Time to start looking at other programs. And so are you ready for that day?
Well, we always have been conservative on how we look at our budgets. And part of that is, of course, 80 to 90% of all community colleges in California, it's people, because it's what you do. So, and that is a lot of other issues involved. But we always know that there's going to be the cyclical nature of budgets, and that we always try to be more conservative than we need to be, and keeping reserves, because the difficult times will come back. They always do. And you just need to be prepared to get through the difficult times. But again, we have the challenge of trying to focus on the needs of our students, and that is always a moving target.
Right. I want to talk about the needs of your students, because a lot of those needs are dictated by the job market. Community colleges are at its best at some level. I mean, look, a lot of kids transfer, and that's fine, but a lot of job training occurs at community colleges. And we've talked about this before, but I want to get even a better sense, because the new president continues to seem very focused on bringing jobs back, whatever that may mean. And I really want to understand what community colleges are doing to prepare for that, because if he is successful, what that means is these jobs that are coming back, he's really kind of focused, it seems to be, on factory jobs. There's a lot of automation, which requires people. I mean, less people, but still requires people. Welding and auto tech, and we can say, oh yeah, we're prepared, but really, are we really prepared?
Yeah, and when you said our new president, I was thinking about
your new LBCC. You do have a new president.
I know, just shifted over to the President of the United States. The answer to the question, though, is, and a couple examples. You mentioned welding. Well, welding has changed. It still is welding, but with the needs of how a person, the skill sets for that welder to get a good paying job, that has changed. What we do in the community college at Long Beach City College, we actually, all our different vocational areas have advisory committees. It's actually required. They take people from the local job market, the people that have needs, and they're constantly getting their input on what the new needs are going to be. So in welding, it's changed over a course of time for what originally it was needed, Because what we found out is a lot of people didn't need all these extended courses in welding. They just needed the basics, and then they were off getting a good job. So that's a success. Another area that has been evolving is something called, which 10 years ago we probably didn't use this term, was cybersecurity. That is an area that we're growing at Long Beach City College, one of these new type of industries, areas for the jobs of the future. And again, those are bringing people in from a lot of the tech firms, how we can do a better job. We're all vulnerable to that, as we've seen on a world scale.
Right,
so
right.
those are things that you constantly are, and what we have done is working with the industries to find out what the future jobs are going to be, and then how are we performing, or what we need to do to alter our programs to address those needs to help those students.
We've also seen an innovation in California, and that is the follows. We've had in the past the ability of high school students to travel to community colleges and take classes there. Now we have the ability for community colleges to come to the high schools and offer classes on the high school campus. That's AB 288. I want to get a sense if LBCC is jumping on that bandwagon.
Yeah, dual enrollment is one of the terms we use for it, and that is where the high school students can get credit for colleges.
Right.
We were able to use the facilities, and you are seeing it. Some colleges, because their geographic location and their facilities they don't have, they utilize their local high schools. For example, in my professional life, I'm working with a community college where they do this much more so than Long Beach. Simply because Long Beach's location with the two campuses in the city, we're fairly close.
Oh, it's easy.
And so we have easy access, which is one of the issues. But dual enrollment is a huge area for community colleges in California in general.
What's also remarkable about dual enrollment is that, you know, our high school students can take AP classes, and then they take an exam, and if they pass it, they'll get college credit. They're taking a college class. There's no AP exam. They just need to pass the class, just like any other class.
Right.
What about, though, on the textbook side? Because that becomes a bit expensive. High school textbooks, I presume you don't buy a high school textbook. But if you're in a community college class, I don't know that those costs are covered.
No, they're not. And that you just touched on the fact that at Long Beach City College we offer 1 year free, which is unique to community colleges. And we're really with the College Promise, we're very, very innovative in so many ways. But the area that has not been addressed completely is the cost of textbooks, which can become very expensive. There is something called the Open Enrollment Resource. Did I get that reversed?
No,
that is where you can go online. But there are questions with your faculty because they want to make sure the integrity of the textbooks. Also with publishers because they have a stake in this as well. But that is going to be in the next few years. That is a big issue for me personally. I know the college of trying to get more of our textbooks to be available to students online.
But
so the cost will
also
be
for
there.
the high school students, because that's where it gets really tricky. Are these high school students taking community college classes?
If they're taking community college courses, and that is, the cost of textbooks is one of your largest expenses. So we're hoping this moves forward, but as I found out, and I've been working on this for years now, you have to work with the state academic senate, the local academic senates, and all the other factors. But that is an area that needs to be addressed because when you look at the cost of textbooks on these students, some of them, the choice is, do I buy a textbook or do I have a meal?
Oh, God.
And that's not a good choice.
So do you feel as if we'll see some movement in the coming years?
I absolutely do, because I know that's the next step in this whole, about bringing the cost, even though the cost of getting a community college education is the most
fairly affordable,
most inexpensive of all throughout the United States, it still does have a cost factor.
He is Jeff Kellogg, Vice President of Long Beach City College District. I'm Brad Pomerance in Long Beach, Local Edition.